Don't look at the door, and don't stand up yet." I froze. The bartender's hand was wrapped around mine. Not tight, but steady. Like he was holding me back from walking off a cliff I couldn't see. "What are you—" "Sir, please," he whispered, eyes locked on the row of bottles behind the bar. "Your daughter isn't on a call." My chest tightened. Riley had just stepped outside 2 minutes ago, phone pressed to her ear, that apologetic smile she always wore when work interrupted our time together. "You don't even know my daughter," I said, keeping my voice low. He swallowed hard. "Riley comes in on Thursdays. She told the guy on the patio you'd sign by tonight." The air went thin. "Sign what?" His eyes finally met mine. They were young eyes, maybe 25, but they carried the kind of fear that ages you fast. "Papers, sir." "He's not a lawyer. You should see his knuckles." Have you ever had a stranger grab your hand and tell you the person you trust most is about to destroy you? Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Before I go any further, let me say a quick prayer for everyone watching. Wherever you are right now, whether you're lying in bed, driving, or just trying to get through a hard day, I pray that peace finds you. I pray that whatever weight you're carrying gets a little lighter. And I pray that you remember you're loved, even when it doesn't feel like it. Amen. Now, let me tell you how I almost lost everything. My name is Harlan Pierce. I'm 69. I'm a carpenter, a widower, and a father. Though on that Tuesday night, I wasn't sure I still had the right to call myself that last one. Riley had called 3 days earlier. "Dad, I found this amazing little pub downtown. Real cozy. I thought maybe we could grab dinner, just the two of us." It had been too long. Ever since her mother, June, passed 3 years ago, Riley and I had become polite strangers who texted on birthdays and pretended the holidays didn't hurt. So when she suggested dinner, I said yes, before she could change her mind. The pub had Edison bulbs and a menu with names longer than the plates. Riley ordered me a ginger ale without asking. When she was little, she used to guess my order at the diner. Always got it right. Now it felt like a performance. We talked about nothing, the weather, her new apartment. She kept glancing at her phone. At the door. Then it buzzed. "Dad, I'm so sorry." "Work emergency. I'll be right back, I promise." She slipped out toward the patio before I could respond. I sat there watching bubbles rise in my ginger ale. The bartender had been hovering, pretending to wipe down the bar, rearranging bottles. He couldn't have been more than 25. Crooked nose. Hands that looked like they knew what work was. And then he reached across the bar and took my hand. "Don't look at the door," he said, "and don't stand up yet." "Your daughter isn't on a call," he continued, voice barely a whisper. "She's on the patio with a man whose knuckles tell stories. If you walk out that door, they'll make you sign something. And sir, you won't leave until you do." I stared at him. At this kid I didn't know, who was risking God knows what to warn me. "Restroom window," he said quietly. "Third tile up has a crack. Pry there. The alley's your only way out." I didn't think. I just moved. The window opened with a sound that felt too loud. I dropped into the alley, knees screaming, and pressed myself against the wall. That's when I heard her voice. Riley's voice. "He'll sign tonight, I promise. He trusts me." A deeper voice answered, cold, smooth. "And if he doesn't?" "He will," Riley said, too quickly. I edged closer and peeked around the corner. My daughter stood under a street lamp, with a man in a suit the color of bruises. He handed her a thick envelope. My last name was written on it in block letters. "Make sure he doesn't see the fine print," the man said, "and make sure he signs before he has time to think." Riley tucked the envelope under her arm like it was a script she'd been rehearsing. I stepped back before my breath could give me away. I didn't confront her, not then, because I realized something in that alley. She wasn't lying to me because she hated me. She was lying because she thought she had no other choice. And somehow, that was worse. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing Riley's face in that alley, the way her chin lifted when she lied, the way her voice cracked when she said, "I know," like she was trying to convince herself as much as the man in the bruise-colored suit. I sat on the edge of the guest bed in her condo, staring at the white walls and the ferns in pots, with names I couldn't pronounce. Everything in Riley's world looked curated, perfect, like a magazine spread that nobody actually lived in. But I knew better now. I knew the drawers held secrets. I knew the smile she wore was a costume. And I knew that somewhere in this pristine apartment was the envelope with my name on it. I pulled out my old flip phone, the one Riley and her brother bought me a tablet to replace. They said it had large icons and would be easier. But I never stopped carrying the flip phone. It held fewer numbers than most people keep in a wallet, but it held the right ones. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 2 years. Nina Crow. She answered on the second ring. "Pierce, it's late. You dying or in trouble?" The second one. "Talk." I told her everything. The pub, the bartender, the alley. Riley's voice promising a man I'd sign something I'd never seen. Nina was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Don't sign anything. Don't even look at it. Bring me copies if you can." "And Harlan?" "Yeah?" "Where you're stubborn." I almost smiled. "I keep it in the glove box." But after I hung up, the smile died. Because I had to ask myself a question I didn't want to answer. How did I get here? How did I raise a daughter who would look me in the eye and lead me into a trap? And then I heard June's voice in my head. Soft, steady, the way it always was when I was spiraling. "Harlan, people don't break in a day. They crack slow. And if you weren't paying attention, you missed the sound." June and I met at a church picnic 32 years ago. She was standing by the dessert table, arguing with the pastor's wife about whether lemon bars needed powdered sugar or if that was just vanity baking. I'd never heard anyone argue about baking with that much passion. I walked up, grabbed one, took a bite, and said, "Needs the sugar." June turned to me, one eyebrow raised, and said, "And who are you?" "The lemon bar police." "Harlan Pierce, carpenter. I know structure when I see it. These are solid, but they need the finish." She laughed. It wasn't a polite laugh. It was the kind that comes from your belly and makes everyone around you want to know what's funny. "You just compared my baking to carpentry?" "Everything's carpentry if you think about it long enough." She handed me another lemon bar. "Then you better eat too and give me a full report." I married her 8 months later. June was the kind of woman who listened with her whole body. When you talked to her, she'd tilt her head just slightly, like she was trying to catch every word before it hit the ground. She taught me how to do that, how to listen to wood, the way she listened to people. "Wood remembers, Harlan," she'd say, running her hand along a piece of oak I was sanding. "You can hear it if you pay attention. It'll tell you where it wants to bend and where it'll break." She was right. I learned to listen to the grain, to the knots, to the way a board sighed under a plane. But I didn't listen to Riley. Not the way I should have. When Riley was 7, she came home from school crying because a boy told her she talked too much. June sat her down at the kitchen table, poured her a glass of milk and said, "Baby, some people are scared of loud voices because they don't have anything loud inside them. Don't you ever make yourself small for someone who's already small?" Riley looked up at her mother with red eyes and said, "But what if I'm too much?" June cupped her face. "Then you find people who have room for all of you." Riley believed her. And for a long time that belief carried her. She was loud. She was bright. She took up space and didn't apologize for it. But somewhere between June's funeral and now, Riley stopped believing she had room. She started performing instead, posting pictures of a life that looked full but felt empty, talking about partnerships and platforms and personal brands like they were oxygen. She stopped calling unless she needed something, stopped visiting unless there was a reason. And I let her. I told myself she was busy, that she was building a life, that she'd come back around when she was ready. But the truth is, I didn't want to hear the cracks, because if I heard them, I'd have to do something about them. And I was too tired, too sad, too buried in my own grief to carry hers too. The morning after the pub, Riley made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice in a glass that matched the rest of her kitchen set. She was humming while she cooked. "Sleep okay, Dad?" she asked, sliding a plate in front of me. "Like a rock," I lied. She smiled, sat down across from me, sipped her coffee like we were in a commercial for a life neither of us actually had. "So," she said, setting her mug down gently, "I was thinking we could swing by your place today, grab some of your things. You'd feel more settled if your photos were here, right?" I took a bite of eggs. They were cold. "Sure," I said. "I'd like that." Her face lit up, like I'd just given her permission to save me. "Perfect. We can go this afternoon." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm really glad you're here, Dad. I know I've been distant, but I'm trying. I really am." I looked at her hand on mine, warm, soft, the same hand that used to reach for me in parking lots when she was scared of cars, and all I could think was, this is the hand that took the envelope. We drove to my house in silence. Riley's car smelled like vanilla and new leather. A playlist whispered tasteful songs that never quite landed. She kept glancing at me, smiling like she was checking to make sure I was still buying the script. The house on Linden Street looked like itself from a distance, but up close, it looked like a story someone stopped reading halfway through. June's herb garden had gone shaggy. The mailbox leaned left. The porch steps sang under my feet the way they always did, a little creak on the southeast corner that June used to call the house saying good morning. Riley didn't notice. She was already at the door, keys in hand, talking about which photos we should grab first. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and lemon oil. I still oiled the banister every month, still wiped down the windowsills the way June taught me. The house didn't feel empty to me. It felt like a conversation I was still having. But to Riley, it probably looked like a museum, a place where time stopped and nobody moved on. "I'll start in the living room," she said, pulling out her phone. "You want me to grab the one of you and Mom at the lake?" "Sure," I said. But I wasn't listening. I was already walking toward the bedroom. June used to say that if you wanted to hide something important, you didn't put it in a safe. You put it where nobody looked unless they were searching for something they'd lost. "Like an earring," she'd said once, smiling that secret smile she wore when she knew something I didn't. I knelt by the dresser in the corner. Nobody swept properly. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I reached under, fingers brushing dust and forgotten receipts, until I felt it. A tin box. I pulled it out, sat back on my heels, and opened it. On top were June's recipe cards, vanilla stains on the edges, her handwriting looping across the paper like a song. I touched them gently, the way you touch something that might disappear if you pressed too hard. Beneath the cards was a manila folder. Clean. Spare. The kind of folder that holds things people don't want to forget. I opened it. The June Pierce Family Trust. Irrevocable. Dated 5 years back. My hands shook as I read. The house on Linden Street didn't belong to me. It belonged to the trust. And the trust belonged to a small nonprofit on the east side that built rent-to-own houses for families who never thought they'd have a yard. June had signed it when the doctor still couched the word cancer in metaphors, when she still had time to plan, to protect, to make sure that even after she was gone, something good would come from the life we'd built together. My daughter could not sell what I did not own. I sat there on the floor, holding the folder, and I wept. Not from anger. From love. Because June had known. She'd known that someday someone might try to take what we'd built, and she'd made sure they couldn't. "Dad?" Riley's voice floated down the hallway. "You okay in there?" I wiped my eyes, stood up, tucked the folder under my arm. "Yeah," I called back, "just looking for something." When I walked into the kitchen, Riley was photographing a cracked ceramic bowl in the good light by the window. She didn't look up. "This bowl is so vintage," she said, tilting her phone for a better angle. I forgot how much character this place has. Character. Like the house was a prop. Like the years June and I spent here were just aesthetic. I set the tin box on the table. The sound made Riley look up. "What's that?" "Something your mother left me." Her eyes went to the box, then back to my face. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, recipes." "Among other things." She set her phone down, walked over, reached for the box like she had a right to it. I didn't move it. I just watched her. "Dad, are you sure you want to go through that right now? I know it's hard." "I already went through it." Her hand stopped. "Oh." Silence stretched between us, like a bridge neither of us wanted to cross. "Riley," I said quietly, "do you still want to introduce me to your advisor?" Her face shifted. The performance snapped back into place. "Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're up for it. He's really not as scary as he looks. It's just a business face." "I'd like to meet him." She blinked. "Really?" "Really. Let's set it up for tomorrow. Let's get everyone dressed." Her smile returned, practiced and bright. "Okay, yeah. I'll text him right now." She picked up her phone and started typing, fingers moving fast, like she was afraid I'd change my mind. I didn't say anything else. I just stood there, holding the tin box, watching my daughter compose a message to a man whose knuckles told stories. And I thought about June. About the way she used to squeeze my hand when I was about to do something hard. About the way she'd whisper, "You've got this, Harlan. You've always had this." I wished she was here, but in a way, she was. She'd left me a folder, a trust, a way out, and now I had to decide what to do with it. I didn't tell Riley about Nina. I didn't tell her I'd already sent photos of the documents to a lawyer who'd spent 2 decades pulling people out of traps they didn't see coming. I didn't tell her I'd been awake until 3 in the morning, reading every word of the papers she'd left on the guest bed for me to sign in the morning. I just smiled, nodded, played the part of the tired old man who wanted someone else to handle the details. Riley spent the rest of the day fluttering around the condo, rearranging throw pillows and talking about how the meeting tomorrow was just a formality, how I'd feel so much better once everything was streamlined, how she was doing this because she loved me. Every word felt like a nail. That night, I waited until I heard her bedroom door close. Then I waited another hour, just to be sure. The condo settled into that particular kind of silence that feels aimed at you, like the walls are holding their breath. I padded into the kitchen barefoot, opened the junk drawer. Riley's world didn't have junk. It had curated categories, which is why the stack of red-stamped envelopes felt like a body where there should have been a coat. Final notice. Past due. Demand for payment. I pulled them out one by one, hands shaking, and spread them across the counter like a card game nobody wins. Credit cards maxed. Loans overdue. Threats from creditors with names that sounded like law firms but weren't. Numbers so big they stopped feeling like numbers and started feeling like weights. 50,000. 70,000. 90,000. My daughter was drowning, and she thought selling my house was a life raft. I sat down at the kitchen table, head in my hands, and tried to remember when it started. When did Riley stop being the loud, fearless girl who believed she had room in the world? When did she start chasing something she couldn't name and spending money she didn't have to prove she'd caught it? I thought about June, about the night she sat me down after Riley's college graduation and said, "Harlan, our girl's got a hunger in her, and hunger's good. But if she doesn't learn to feed it with the right things, it'll eat her alive." I'd brushed it off, told June she was worrying too much, told her Riley was just ambitious, just driven. But June had been right. Riley's hunger had turned into something else, something desperate, something that made her look at her own father and see a solution instead of a person. I photographed every envelope, sent them to Nina in a single message at 1:47 in the morning. She replied 3 minutes later. "Call me." I stepped out onto the balcony, closed the door behind me, and dialed. "Harlan," Nina said, voice low and sharp. "This isn't just debt. This is a setup." "What do you mean?" "These creditors, half of them are shell companies tied to the same finance outfit. Alder Rowe, the same people who want you to sign over your house." My stomach dropped. They gave her the debt? Or bought it? Either way, they own her now, and they're using her to get to you. I leaned against the railing, knees weak. The city lights blurred in front of me. So she's not just desperate. She's trapped. Exactly. And tomorrow, when you walk into that office, they're going to make you think you're saving her. They're going to make you think signing those papers is the only way to keep your daughter from losing everything. But it's not. No, because the house isn't yours to give. June made sure of that. I closed my eyes, felt the night air on my face, heard June's voice in my head again, soft and certain. "I'll love you past the ending." "What do I do, Nina?" "You show up tomorrow. You let them think they've won. And then you let me walk in and pull the floor out from under them." "And Riley?" Nina was quiet for a moment. "That's the part you can't script, Harlan. When she realizes you knew, when she realizes you could have exposed her and didn't, that's when you'll find out what kind of person she's going to choose to be." I hung up, stood there on the balcony for a long time, watching the city breathe. Inside, Riley's door was still closed. She was probably asleep, probably dreaming about tomorrow, about the moment I'd sign my name and she'd be free. She didn't know I'd already decided not to sign. But more than that, she didn't know I'd already decided to forgive her. Not because she deserved it, but because that's what June would have done. June didn't believe in letting people drown just because they'd tried to pull you under. She believed in throwing them a rope, and then teaching them how to swim. I went back inside, closed the drawer, put the envelopes back exactly where I'd found them. Tomorrow, Riley would wake up thinking she was in control. Tomorrow, I'd let her believe it. And then I'd show her what love looked like when it refused to let you fall. The office sat on the 12th floor of a downtown building made of glass and ambition. The kind of place where people wore suits that cost more than my truck and talked about disruption like it was a virtue. Riley drove. She was wearing white, a blazer and slacks that made her look like she was auditioning for a role she hadn't earned yet. She kept glancing at me, smiling that smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You nervous, Dad?" "Should I be?" She laughed. Too bright, too fast. "No. God, no. It's just paperwork. Colt's really nice once you get to know him." Colt. So the man in the bruise-colored suit had a name. We parked in the garage, rode the elevator in silence. The doors opened to a lobby that smelled like expensive coffee and lies. A receptionist with perfect teeth pointed us toward a conference room at the end of the hall. Riley walked fast, heels clicking on the marble like a countdown. I followed slow, taking my time, memorizing everything. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. A long table, leather chairs, and at the head of the table, Colt Avery. He stood when we entered, smiled, extended his hand. "Mr. Pierce, it's an honor." His handshake was firm, the kind men learn in locker rooms, the kind that says, "I go first." "Harlan," I said, "just Harlan." "Harlan it is." He gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "I'm fine." Riley sat beside me, hands folded on the table like a schoolgirl waiting for a test she'd already studied for. Colt sat across from us, that smile still glued to his face. He slid a thick folder across the table. My name was on the front, in block letters. "This is very straightforward," he said. "We're simply consolidating your assets to make things easier for you and Riley moving forward. You'll have full access to everything, of course. This just ensures that if anything were to happen, Riley can step in without any legal complications." I didn't touch the folder. "And what exactly would happen?" I asked. Colt blinked. "I'm sorry? You said, if anything were to happen. What are we talking about? Me getting sick? Me dying? Me forgetting my own name?" Riley's hand found mine under the table. "Dad, it's just a precaution." "I'm asking him." Colt's smile tightened. "It's standard estate planning, Harlan. We're just making sure your wishes are clear." "My wishes are already clear. My wife made sure of that." The room went still. Colt leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "I'm not sure I follow." The door opened. Nina Crow walked in wearing navy, and a face that never apologized for arriving late. She set her briefcase on the table with the kind of care butchers reserved for knives. "You don't have to follow," Nina said. "You just have to listen." Riley's hand tightened on mine. "Dad, what? Who is this?" "My lawyer," I said. "Nina Crow." Colt's smile finally died. "This is highly irregular." "So is fraud," Nina said. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder, smaller than Colt's, but heavier. She slid it across the table. "The property at 118 Linden Street is held in an irrevocable trust. It was transferred 5 years ago to Eastside Pathways, a non-profit organization. My client cannot transfer, sell, or encumber what he does not own." Colt's jaw tightened. Riley's face went white. "This is," Colt started. "Binding," Nina said. And if Alder Rowe prepared these documents knowing the property wasn't his to pledge, you have a problem that has teeth. Silence did the math for everyone. Riley's lips parted. She looked at me like I'd just pulled the ground out from under her. Dad? You knew? I knew. And you didn't tell me? You didn't tell me you were trying to steal my house? Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time, not the performance kind. Colt stood slowly. We had assurances. You had a desperate woman telling you a story, Nina said. That's on you. He looked at Riley, then at me. His smile came back, but it was different now. Rotten. Mr. Pierce, you just made this very complicated. I stood, looked him in the eye. No, you did. The day you shook my daughter's hand. We walked out. Riley didn't follow right away. I heard her voice behind me, small and broken. Colt, please, I can still. But I didn't hear the rest, because I was already gone. Riley didn't call me for 3 days. I stayed at a motel off the highway, the kind with thin walls and a neon sign that buzzed all night. I didn't go back to her condo, didn't answer when she texted, didn't respond when she left voicemails that started with apologies and ended with excuses. I needed space, not from her. From the version of myself that had let this happen. Nina called on the second day. Colt's people are quiet, too quiet. That worries me. Should I be worried? Just careful. Men like him don't lose gracefully. She was right. On the third night, I walked past the pub where this whole thing started. I wasn't planning to go in. I just wanted to see it again. To remember the moment Noah grabbed my hand and changed everything. But when I got close, I saw him. Colt Avery. He was leaning against the brick wall outside, arms crossed, watching the door like he owned it. When he saw me, he smiled. Not the boardroom smile. The other one. The one that came from somewhere darker. Mr. Pierce, he said, pushing off the wall. Funny running into you here. Didn't know you were a regular. I'm not. But I figured you might be. He stepped closer. Not threatening, just close enough to make his point. You embarrassed me in that office. You embarrassed yourself. His jaw tightened. I don't think you understand the situation you're in. Then explain it. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to me. I opened it. It was a photo. Riley, sitting in a car, crying. The timestamp said yesterday. Your daughter owes people money, Colt said quietly. People who don't care about trust documents or lawyers. People who just want what they're owed. And you're one of them. I'm the reasonable one. The others? He shrugged. They don't take no for an answer. My hands shook. Not from fear. From rage. You're threatening my daughter. I'm telling you the truth. Riley made promises. She used your name to make them, and now those promises are due. Then she'll figure it out. Colt laughed. It was a cold sound, empty. You really think she can? She's drowning, Harlan, and you just kicked the life raft away. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the cologne he probably spent too much on, close enough to see the small scar above his left eyebrow. You ever work with wood? I asked. He blinked. What? I held up my hand, showed him the small nick on my thumb from a chisel I'd slipped last week. Wood has a grain. You try to cut across it. It tears. You follow it. It holds. I let my hand drop. You tried to cut across us. That's why we tore. That's a cute metaphor, old man. But metaphors don't pay debts. Neither does fear. I walked past him. He didn't stop me. But I felt his eyes on my back the whole way down the block. When I got back to the motel, there was a voicemail from Riley. "Dad, please. I need to talk to you. I messed up. I know I messed up. But Colt's people, they're not going to just let this go. Please call me back." Her voice cracked at the end. Not the performance crack. The real one. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, and thought about June. About the night she told me she was sick. About the way she'd held my hand and said, "I'm not scared of dying, Harlan. I'm scared of you forgetting how to live after I'm gone." I'd promised her I wouldn't forget. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped living. I'd stopped reaching out. Stopped asking the hard questions. Stopped being the kind of father who noticed when his daughter was drowning. And now she was paying for it. I called her back. She answered on the first ring. "Dad, I'm here." She was crying. I could hear it in the way she breathed. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I know. I didn't know what else to do. They said if I couldn't. "Riley, stop." She went quiet. "Where are you?" I asked. "Home." "I'm coming over." "Dad, you don't have to." "I'm coming over." I hung up, grabbed my jacket, walked out into the night. Because that's what fathers do. Even when their daughters try to destroy them. Even when forgiveness feels impossible. You show up anyway. Riley's condo looked different at night. The white walls felt colder. The ferns looked like shadows. She opened the door before I could knock, eyes red and swollen. "Dad." She didn't hug me, didn't reach for me, just stepped aside and let me in. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where she'd served me cold eggs and talked about streamlining paperwork. The same table where I'd watched her perform the role of devoted daughter. But tonight, the performance was gone. "I didn't want to do it," she said quietly. "I need you to know that." "Then why did you?" She looked down at her hands, picked at a nail. "Because I was out of options. Because I thought if I could just fix this one thing, everything else would fall into place." "Fix what?" "Everything." Her voice broke. "My business, my debt, the promises I made to people who believed in me, the image I built that turned out to be cardboard. And you thought stealing my house would fix that?" "I thought keeping you safe would." She looked up, tears streaming. "Mom made me promise, Dad. The night before she died. She grabbed my hand and said, 'Take care of your father. Don't let him be alone.' And I failed. I failed at everything else, and I couldn't fail at that. I sat back. Let her words settle. So you decided controlling me was the same as caring for me? I thought I was protecting you. From what? From ending up alone in some state home because you couldn't afford to stay in your house. From losing everything because you're too stubborn to ask for help." She wiped her eyes. "I thought if I managed things now, you'd be okay later." "I am okay, Riley. You're alone. Alone isn't the same as broken." She stared at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. "Mom protected me 3 years after she died," I said. "She set up that trust because she knew. She knew someone might try to take what we built, and she knew that someone might be you." Riley's face crumbled. "She thought I'd do this?" "She thought you'd be scared. And fear makes people do things they'd never do otherwise." "I'm not scared. I'm drowning." "Then stop swimming toward the bottom." We sat in silence, the kind that's heavy, but not hopeless. Finally, Riley spoke. "Colt's people won't stop. They'll come after me, and they'll use you to do it. Let them try." "Dad, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. They think they can scare me into giving them something I don't have. But here's what they don't know. I leaned forward. I've been scared before. I've buried the woman I loved. I've stood at her grave and wondered how I'd survive another day. And I did. Not because I was strong. Because she taught me that love doesn't end when the heart stops. Riley was crying again, quietly this time. "What do I do?" she whispered. "You start by telling the truth, to yourself, to me, to everyone you lied to. And then you build something real, not for the camera, not for the followers, for you." She nodded, slowly, like she was testing the weight of the idea. "Will you help me?" I reached across the table, took her hand, the same hand that had taken the envelope, the same hand that used to reach for mine in parking lots. "I'm already helping you. I just needed you to see it." We sat there for a long time, father and daughter, broken and trying to mend. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, something started to shift. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the beginning of it. And sometimes, the beginning is enough. The next morning, Riley and I drove to the nonprofit on the east side, the one June had chosen to receive the house after I was gone. She didn't ask why we were going. She just got in the car and followed my lead. Maybe because she was finally ready to stop pretending she knew the way. The building was small, brick, a hand-painted sign above the door that said East Side Pathways in letters that looked like a kid had done them. Which, it turned out, a kid had. Inside, a woman with gray braids and kind eyes greeted us. Her name was Margaret. She was the director. "Harlan Pierce," she said, smiling. "June told me so much about you." "She talked about this place all the time," I said. "She believed in what you do." She was one of our biggest supporters, even at the end. Margaret looked at Riley. "And you must be Riley." Riley nodded. "I am." "Your mother loved you very much. She talked about you every time she came in." Riley's eyes filled with tears. "She did?" "She said you had a big heart, that you felt things deeply. She worried you'd lose yourself trying to be perfect." Margaret's smile was gentle. "She wanted you to know that perfect isn't real, and you didn't need to chase it." Riley looked at me, then back at Margaret. "I wish she'd told me that." "She tried," I said quietly. "You just weren't ready to hear it." Margaret led us through the building, showed us photos of families who'd moved into homes the nonprofit built, families who'd never thought they'd own anything, who'd never thought they'd have a place to call theirs. One photo stopped me cold. A little girl on a porch, arms spread wide, smiling so big it looked like the sun lived in her chest. "That's the house on Linden," Margaret said. "They moved in last month. That little girl is Zoe. She told us the porch sings when you step on it." I smiled. "It does." Riley stared at the photo. "This is our house." "It was your parents' house," Margaret corrected gently. "Now it's Zoe's, and someday it'll belong to someone else. That's how love works. It doesn't end. It just finds new hands." Riley was quiet the whole drive back. I didn't push. I just let her sit with it. When we got to her condo, she finally spoke. "I wanted to give you something, Dad. I wanted to prove I could take care of you the way Mom did, but I couldn't even take care of myself." "You're learning." "Am I? Because it feels like I'm just breaking things and calling it growth." "Growth is messy. June used to say the best gardens are the ones that look wild." Riley smiled. Just a little. She said that about me once. She said it because it was true. We sat in the car for a while, not talking, just breathing. Finally, Riley said, "I'm going to fix this. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to fix it." "I know. And I'm going to stop trying to be perfect." "Good. Perfect is boring anyway." She laughed. It was small, but it was real. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Noah. "Mr. Pierce? It's Noah, from the pub." I remember. "I just wanted to check in. Make sure you're okay." "I'm still standing." "Good. That's good." He hesitated. "Your daughter came in yesterday. She left me a note, and a tip. A big one." "What did the note say?" "It said, 'Thank you for saving my father. I'm working on saving myself.'" I smiled. "She's getting there." "I'm glad. I was worried." "You're a good kid, Noah. Don't let the world tell you otherwise." After I hung up, I sat on the porch of the motel and watched the sun go down. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. "Mom's garden is overgrown. Want to help me fix it?" I texted back. "I'll bring the tools." The next Saturday we met at the house on Linden. Zoe's family was out, but Margaret had given us permission to work in the garden. Riley knelt in the dirt, pulling weeds with her bare hands. She was wearing old jeans and a t-shirt. No makeup, no performance. Just my daughter. "Mom always said oregano was stubborn," she said, pinching a leaf. "Like someone else I know." She smiled. "I get it from both of you." We worked in silence for a while. The kind of silence that feels full instead of empty. Finally, Riley spoke. "I'm going to sell the condo. Downsize. Pay off what I can. Let the rest go." "That's smart. And I'm going to stop posting. For a while, at least. I need to figure out who I am when nobody's watching." "I think you already know." She looked at me. "Do I?" "You're June's daughter. And you're mine. And that's enough." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of dirt across her cheek. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too." We finished the garden as the sun set. The porch sang under our feet. The oregano smelled like summer, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. 6 months later, I went back to the pub. Noah was behind the bar, same crooked nose, same quiet kindness. He saw me and smiled. "Mr. Pierce, long time." "Too long." He poured me a ginger ale without asking, set it in front of me with a napkin folded underneath. "Your daughter came in last week. She's doing good, huh?" "She's doing real." "That's better." The door opened. Riley walked in. She saw me and waved. No performance, no pretense, just my kid. She sat down beside me. Noah poured her a ginger ale too. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "To old roots," I said. We clinked glasses, drank. Sat in the comfortable silence of people who'd survived something together. Outside, the alley where I'd hidden and heard the truth was just an alley again. The window I'd climbed through was just a window. The porch that sang was singing for someone new. But the love June had planted was still growing. In trust documents, in second chances, in a daughter learning to build something real. People ask me what I would have done if Noah hadn't warned me, if I hadn't found June's folder, if I hadn't had Nina to pull the floor out from under Colt Avery's feet. I don't have a tidy answer. I only know that grace came from strange places, from a bartender who didn't have to care, from a wife who loved me past her ending, from a daughter who broke and chose to mend. Forgiveness isn't pretending the wound didn't happen. It's choosing to believe the person who hurt you is capable of healing too. Love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. It means giving them the tools to rebuild and trusting them to use them. Riley's still building, still learning, still figuring out who she is without the camera. But she's not alone, and neither am I. Because that's the thing about family. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. June knew that. She built a life around it. And even after she was gone, her love kept showing up, in a trust, in a garden, in a porch that sings, and in a daughter who finally learned to listen. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real, that forgiveness is possible, that love doesn't quit. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next story. Turn on notifications, and tell us in the comments, have you ever had to choose between exposing someone you love or saving them? Your story might inspire someone else, because that's what we do here. We tell the truth, we share the hard parts, and we remind each other that even in the darkest alleys, there's always a window. You just have to know where to look, and sometimes someone kind enough to show you where to pry.